when you're reading to children 5 and above, 5, 6, 7, 8, there's a wide variety of books to choose from in many genres. Many of these children enjoy science fiction, fantasy, adventure stories, comic books, and of course some that still have epic stories in them with lovely illustrations, some that refer to our festivals and local culture, and of course the tales of behaviours, which are full of irony and humor, which really tickles the children's imagination and curiosity. And then, of course, there are many books that deal with some folkloric stories, some of them set in a culture that children are very familiar with. For example, One Grain of Rice by Demi. Now, this story is set in a village where the Raja every year collects all of the rice in his storeroom, which was fine until one year there was a famine. That year, the people had nothing to eat. You may want to explain about famines to your children. One day, little Rani was following the king's elephant and found some grains of rice on the ground. She quickly collected them in her skirt and took them to the palace to return to the king. He was so surprised, and he said, "I must offer you a reward for your kindness." Rani resisted, and he said, No, I must. Ask for anything you want." "Well, Your Highness, if it please you, I'd like 1 grain of rice." "1 grain of rice? That's nowhere near enough. Ask for anything." "All right, Your Highness, if you would be pleased to give me 1 grain of rice today, and then 2 tomorrow, and double that the next day for 30 days. Well, when Rani left the palace, the king said, she may be a very honest girl, but not too clever. By the end of 30 days, Rani had collected 500 million grains of rice, plenty for her village friends. In a similar vein, the book called The People Who Hug the Trees is a legend in Rajasthan, but it also is tied to today's Chipko movement as an interesting way for the children to relate to that. Again, it's in a village in the desert, and there's a grove of trees, which, as Amrita reminds everyone, protects them from the dazzling desert sun, shows them where to find water, and protects them from the onslaught of the desert sandstorm. But one day, the king sent his soldiers and axemen to cut down the trees to make his new fortress. "Don't cut my tree," cried Amrita. "Stand aside," said the axemen. "The king has ordered me to cut the trees." While she spoke, all the village people ran to the grove and hugged the trees. The soldiers had no choice but to return empty-handed, and the king was exceedingly annoyed. He gathered his troops and arrived at the village. "Who has dared to defy my order?" he shouted to the village people. "These trees are for my fortress." Quietly, Amrita stepped forward. "Oh, great prince, we could not let the axemen chop down our trees. You see, they protect us from the dazzling desert sun. They show us where to find water, and they protect us from the onslaught of the sandstorms." As she was speaking, indeed, a sandstorm rolled in from the desert. The soldiers took whatever protection they could behind a tree, as did the villagers, and they hugged until the sand abated. When it had settled, the king stood before them and said, "You have shown great courage and wisdom in protecting your trees. From now on, no trees shall be cut." Stories like these and others give you a chance to discuss current issues with your children, as well as some of the values that you as a family and a culture espouse, and that the children are beginning to understand and perhaps imbibe. The literature is a great way to start those conversations and bring some of it into rich life for you and the children.